Yo, what up? How's it going? And welcome back for another video. In today's video, we will be talking about 5 habits of every challenger player. Now, this is an inverse of a video topic that I've been making a lot of videos on, which is bad habits of beginner players or noob traps. And so I decided to do the inverse of this, of what do top level players do in every single one of their games, or things that they try to implement in their climbing strategy that they do. Now, I'm basing this list off of stuff that I have done. I have been challenger since set 4.5. And so based off of stuff that I do or the lens that I view the game, as well as I am constantly studying other players to get better. So, and listening to them in interviews, watching their streams. So I've also based this off of what I've heard other high level players do. I mean, as I'm filming this, I have a stream open at my other monitor because I was spending this morning while I was working on this video watching other players to try to get better. So that is what I'm basing it. So I feel like I do have a wealth of knowledge on the subject. With that out of the way, let's just get into the stuff. Let's get into why you came here. Again, a lot of the stuff will be stuff that I've mentioned in other videos when I bring it up here. And I think this really ties up my challenger series of 3 videos I'm making on my challenger grind. This is the third one. So drops the ego. Challenger players talk a big game, but every challenger player watches other players' VODs or stream. I mean, I can't speak for all 250 people, but we all watch other people play. Even people who do talk a big game, like someone like Soju, who will like kind of shit talk or talk about how they're the best player in the patch. Even this guy is watching other people play, and even while he is one of the highest ranked players on the server, I will watch him get coached by other players. I watched him get coached on AP Flex by Ramblin while also being one of the best AP Flexes on the patch. So even people who have a bit, who you perceive has a big ego about the game, they still are trying to improve. And one of the best ways to improve is watching other high level players. So why do we do this? Why play test every strat when other players can do that for you? And it comes a little bit with trusting others. Why do I want to try to learn how to optimize AP Flex? If I can watch Ramblin, who is a better AP player than myself, why don't I just watch him try to optimize this playstyle on a patch, and I can learn it that way. So then when I get into my games, I have a baseline that is much higher than if I just went in without watching other people. And this kind of comes with trusting other players, that they can know more about a particular subject than you, despite you being the same rank as them. That can happen sometimes. So this doesn't mean that you can't come up with your own unique strats, and challenger players come up with their own unique strats. But challenger players make a great use of their resources, doesn't let their ego get in the way of learning. So even though for example, last patch, AP Flex was extremely popular, especially it was like the Soju build, the triple chalice thing. I didn't even play that build that much, but it would be foolish of me not to learn it and to play it whenever I have the opener for it. So even a playstyle I wasn't even playing that much. I was playing a lot of reroll protectors and AD Flex on a patch where the meta was AP Flex. But I still knew exactly how to play that AP Flex style because that is the best way to play the game. So I need to learn how to play it. And I'll use other players to playtest for me. Like I watched a lot of Soju to learn that playstyle because that was basically his comp. So yeah, we do that. Okay, 2, plays meta. Okay, this slide and the next 2 slides are going to be a lot about using strategies to climb, and which I talk about a lot in my videos is having a defined strategy is very good for climbing and playing meta and stuff like that. I want to say something before we talk about the next 3 slides and before I get people like rolling their eyes. Not no one, but the vast majority of challenger players, 99% of the players that you'll see that are in challenger, they're in challenger because they are better than everyone else at the game in the server. That is just reality. They put in the time and they put in the effort and they are better at the game as a whole. Now, there are some exceptions of people who are pure one tricks and purely can only exist on the ladder based off of whatever the meta is. That is very uncommon, but it does exist. And those players probably could just be better players if they just wanted to be, but they just like playing this way. You know what I mean? But let me be really clear. Challenger players are challenger because they are challenger players. 99% of them. And if you think it's because they're lucky, if you think it's because they abuse a particular strategy, then you are just living in a fantasy land. There's a reason why that same, 50 players are in the top of challenger every single set. Is because they play a lot? Yes. Is it because they're lucky? No. Is it because they abuse one strategy to get there? 99% of the time, the answer is no. So just get that out of your head. Stop. Okay. Before, and many other players, let's get into the thing. I have interacted have refused to play meta. It doesn't mean you can't climb without playing meta, but you can't climb to a certain point, honestly. So yeah, again, I used to do this. I used to not play meta. I would intentionally never play meta, and I still shy away from playing like mainstream meta. And I know a lot of players who are like, yeah, I'm not gonna play that. You know. But you got to. I mean, you have to at a certain point. And let me talk about this. So the meta isn't holding you back. That is not what's holding you back. And the way that I can express this is in set 5, and I used to do this a lot in set 4. I used to make a lot of accounts in set 4. In set 5, for example, when no one was playing Vayne, no one was playing Static Shiv at that time, and no one was playing 4 Rangers, unless you were playing Aphelios and you just had to play it because you weren't getting other units. You know, it was never anything you would play at the time of me doing that. I climbed an account, unranked to master with like an 85% top 4 rate, only playing Static Shiv, Vayne, 2-star, 4 Ranger. That is the only build that I played. Only build that I played. And in set 4, I only played Darius, which at the time of me doing that, people said was the worst carry in the game. Climbed from unranked to master with about a 85% top 4 rate. Same thing. The meta is not holding you back. Okay, let me be clear. You can climb, for the 99% of you can climb to your goals by not even touching meta and intentionally playing off meta. So let me be clear about that. But if you're trying to hit challenger or you're trying to hit GM and stuff like that, you probably need to play meta. Now, I was a GM player at the same time as refusing to play meta, but I didn't make the leap from a low GM player to a challenger player without playing meta. I just didn't, or without playing meta in my own style. So even if they don't like the meta, challenger players will always play the meta when the game pushes them into it. So as I said before, last patch, I was playing AD flex and reroll protectors. That was my strategy for climbing. Was that the meta strategy? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That was not the meta strategy. But my comps fit into the meta enough, and whenever I got an opener to play the meta strategy, which was AP flex with Chalice slams, as soon as I got the opportunity to play that comp, I would play it. And at the beginning of this patch, I played a few games of Talon reroll, and I had some first place games, but I never looked to play that build. But Talon reroll was extremely good on the current patch that I'm playing on. Just got hotfix nerfed. I would still play it, but I didn't look to play that. You know, I looked to play other stuff, but I still will play it. So it's really just about learning the meta strategies, learning like your own play style within it, and then not refusing to play the meta whenever the game gives it to you. So most of the time, the meta isn't as one-dimensional as people make it out to be. Challenger players can almost always find their own style within each meta. So as I just said, I mean, I would get comments on my videos and people coming to my stream, or I'd watch people on other stream mauling about how they can't play AD flat, AD this patch, or I just played Urgot, he's so unplayable. Yo, last patch, I was playing Urgot, I was playing AD. You know what I mean? Like, so the meta is hardly ever as one-dimensional. And I gained 800 LP on a patch where I wasn't playing meta in some people's minds, but you know. Anyways, but challenger players always find their own style. So I had my own style, and then I also learned the super mainstream part of the meta. And so you can find your own style. It's fine, but you got to make sure it's viable, and you also have to learn the meta. So that whenever you get the high roll opener, you can actually use it as a high roll. Okay, if you refuse to play meta, but still want to keep your LP, just take a break. So if you refuse to learn the meta and you want to keep your LP, you just have to take a break or have an alt account. But we'll talk more about that later, because I do this sometimes. Like, I do that sometimes. If I think the meta is really one-dimensional, sometimes it is at the very beginning of the sets, I flat out just don't play. Save mental. I just don't play. Cool. All right, double down. So this is kind of going along. This is kind of continued with finding your own strat, going to the meta. When challenger players find what works, they abuse it. As soon as a challenger player finds their strat, they take it as far as it can go. For example, Milk. I'll use Milk as an example. If you don't know Milk, he used to go by Delicious Milk GG, but I think he's changing his names to Milk TFT now. But anyways, regardless, Milk is a very common, very highly regarded as one of the best players on the server. I think he's currently ranked 2, and he has another account that's like ranked 20. Highly regarded. Some people will call him the best player, but at the very least, people usually put him in top 5. There's also a random camp of people who will rank him as one of the worst challenger players or stuff like that. And those people are delusional. But the reason why they do that is because Milk regularly one tricks. Regularly one tricks. All the time. Like, will hard force. Like, one hardcore one trick. And the reason why that is because Milk is just, at least from my perspective, he has a very simplistic view of the game, or a very simplistic way of thinking. Not that he's dumb. It's actually a smart way that he thinks. He just thinks very directly. It doesn't try to think about any nuance, it seems. And so as soon as something works, he goes, that works, therefore I do. So like he might be like 5 mutant voracious. I've played it twice and I first placed every time. Therefore, that build is broken and I will play it every single opportunity it is available to me. And that is what he does. So, and that is really common. And that's the same thing I did. There was a time in set 5 where I very commonly played a lot of flex, but you know, I found that I was winning a lot with when I played Nidalee and Riven reroll. And this is when a lot of people weren't playing that comp yet, but it was meta, but it just wasn't a big meta, a big mainstream comp at the moment. And so I played that like 8 out of 10 games. And as I said, when I was making my initial climb to Challenger, I was playing 9 out of 10 games reroll protectors until I got around like 600 LP. That wasn't working for me anymore. So maybe only 2 of my games would be protector out of 10 after that. So I found a strat, I doubled down on it. So I doubled down on reroll protectors, and that is just a really common strategy. The best player I can think of that does that all the time is Milk. He will reach rank 1 or will, you know, get like, what did he get? 3rd place at Worlds, something like that. Only playing Kled that whole entire tournament when no one else was playing it. I mean, it was meta, but you know what I mean? You get it. Once you find something that works, just double down on it. And if it doesn't work anymore, you don't like doing it anymore, then you can do something else. But you can relate this to being successful at many other things in life. For example, on YouTube, now I do YouTube, and I've done YouTube in the past before with different channels. I've actually uploaded hundreds of videos that are not even on this channel before. And a big thing that you learn whenever you do YouTube is once you find something that works, you double down on it. You continue to do that type of stuff until it no longer does that. And the way you find that out, way you find out if it works is if you do something, it works, and then you put more effort into it, and the effort is the results are at least comparable to the amount of effort you put into it, then you just continue doing that and it'll continue to grow. If it's growing at the same rate that you're putting effort into it, then keep doing it. Same idea with LP or gaining ranks. If you're gaining a bunch of rank, keep putting more effort into getting better at that playstyle. But as soon as it stops working, you know, always be on the lookout for the next strat, which is something else that challenger players do. So as I said, when I was making my big climb, I was playing a lot of reroll protectors. Once I started to go against higher skilled players, I was no longer able to consistently force that comp and consistently climb. So I looked for my new strat. My new strat was playing AD flex. I saw a lot of people were leaving all the AD carries open, like Fiora, like Urgot, like Jinx, stuff like that in the late game, and they were only playing Kai'Sa. They were only playing Chalice slams. And so I found that I could find my niche in the meta right there. And that was my new strat. So let me be clear. Challenger players are challenger because of their fundamentals. I already talked about this. Not because they abuse a particular strategy. This is the way you look at strategies. Strategies are just tools. Strategies are a way for you to show your skill, you know, to show what you have learned, to gain LP by saying, I am this level of player because I was able to use a strategy that is also available to all of you. I have used it to gain this LP. And that comes from having good fundamentals and just getting better at the game in general. 99% of the time, 1% of the time, of course, people inflate their ELOs. Happens sometimes, especially at the beginning of sets. But later in the sets, it's much harder to inflate your LP. Okay, they adapt/take breaks. Challenger players adapt their strats as soon as it stops working. This is what I was talking about a lot in the last slide. Despite previously being successful with a strat, and there's a typo there, challenger players will regularly reevaluate. I do this all the time. As I just said, I stopped winning as many games, so I started to change my playstyle to AD flex because I was already utilizing AD comps as well. And then I just started more indexing into that area. So I was looking for a new strat, very easy modification. But sometimes the modification to your climbing strategy or to your game plan or to, you know, whatever's happening, sometimes it is not as easy. So you need a way to do that, a way to adapt, a way to take breaks. And so a lot of challenger players have a way to save their LP or disconnect from their way of thinking. For example, a lot of people have an alt account to practice. I used to do this a lot. I did this because of anxiety. I used to get a lot of anxiety when I climb. For example, the first time I hit Challenger was in set 4.5. And when I did that, I actually hit it on 2 accounts in the same day. because I had a lot of like imposter syndrome and a lot of anxiety when I'd play. And so anytime I climbed any respectable amount of LP, if I climbed like 200 LP, I would need to do it again to validate to myself that I actually did that. You know, it sucked. It was an imposter thing going on. But like if I hit 700 LP, I go, am I really a 700 LP player? And the only way that I could prove that to myself was by gaining 200 LP. Not a very healthy practice. So I stopped doing that. And so when I hit Challenger in 4.5, I had like 2 accounts at 800 LP on the same day, and I qualified for Challenger. But anyways, I did that as a coping mechanism. But a lot of people do that so that whenever they, you know, let's say they have a 1,000 LP accounts and they have a 500 LP account, they can practice the beginning of patches on, or whenever they start losing a lot of LP, they can start to gain LP on that account, and they play against reasonably similar skill level of players. So they have an alt to practice, or they just stop playing to watch their peers. I'll give a good example of a player who does this a lot, and that is Raditz. If you guys know Raditz, he does this a lot. So his LP goes up and down quite a bit. And this is not, I'm not throwing any shade at Raditz. He's a great player who is consistently Challenger. But a really common thing that he does is he just doesn't do very well at the beginning of patches, or when his strategy doesn't work anymore. He's not very good at adapting quickly. So he knows that. So what he does is that he watches other people play at the beginning of patches or whenever he's lost a lot of LP, and then he always gains his LP back. And that's because he is a Challenger player. He is a Challenger level player, and there's nothing wrong with him recognizing that he is just not very good at adapting to the meta, and so or adapting to a new strategy after his current strategy starts to fail. So he knows that. So what he does is he watches other players play, and that's how he does it, and then he can translate that to his gameplay. And so I think that is a skill of Raditz, that he is, you know, he has recognized his disadvantages and uses it as an advantage, you know, because he recognizes it, he's able to use it as an advantage. So, or outright take a break from the game. That's what I do. That's my move. That is my move. That does not work for everybody, and that is more of a I don't even think it's optimal what I do in order to continue playing the game, but this is what I need to do to mentally be able to play the game. For example, I'm on a break from playing the game right now. I'm at my peak LP I've ever been at. I'm at like 940 LP. I actually really want to hit 1K LP before the set ends. I've never been 1K LP. I just don't ever go for it. But mentally, I cannot play. I need a break. And this is the last week before PvE. And so I probably don't need to play. This is the same reason why if you guys ever look up any of my accounts, despite me always saying, I've been Challengers to set 4.5. All my accounts will all say Master on them at the end of the set, because I let my accounts decay, because I can't mentally handle playing this game all the time. I can't. So I have to take a break for tilt, and I have to take a break for just in general. Like, I'm not even tilted. I actually enjoy playing the game, but I just know I'm about to play the game for about 3 months straight. A new set's coming out. I'm gonna be tilted. So I need this mental break right now. And so I regularly take breaks if I'm performing unwell, if I'm tilting, if I lost tons of LP, or I just take a break because I know what's up to come, or what's to come. So I think Challenger players regularly implement a way to adapt, or to mentally take a break, or to take a break to get better at the game. Taking breaks is very important, no matter how you do it. But anyways, all right, this is the last slide, guys. And this is one of the most important things I think I will talk about in this video, and I've thought on this a lot. This has been one of the biggest things that I have learned this year, despite me hitting Challenger before. This is one of the biggest things I really learned and really got a feel for, and was able to start to conceptualize how I feel when I feel I'm playing at a Challenger level. And this is the biggest thing that I feel when I can feel that I am like, oh yeah, I'm playing at a high level. It's when the game comes to me. When the game comes to them. They don't force Challenger players. They don't force or brute force things to happen in the game, even force players. So we'll talk about this. Now, in the past, I think you could brute force in different sets. There were sets where you could actually brute force every game, like really brute force. But in this set, especially with augments, being able to adapt your existing strat is more important than ever. Challenger players may come into a game with a loose game plan, but that is thrown out of the window if they start to high roll another strategy, or their existing strategy, typo, is needed to be heavily modified. Example, cat sense flex. So let me talk about this. Even one tricks, guys. Even people who are one trick. So let's say a player is one tricking sense. You know, they're one tricking Shaco specifically. They really want to start sword, or they want to start glove or they want to start bow every single game because they are a Shaco one trick. That is what's gained them 500 LP, and they will take Shaco until they live or they die. Okay, but this is actually a challenger level player who's playing this game. Okay. And then they don't get any of those item openers. They get a rod. And then first round of the game, they get a Katarina pair. And then their augment is Academy emblem. Do you think they should play Shaco, or should they just play Katarina, who is not as good of a carry as Shaco in the current meta, or at least you know, at least early on in the patch? Kat is not as good as Shaco. But if you are just high rolling out of your ass for a Katarina comp, and you already know how to play Sins, and you've got the best item opener for her, which is Rod, in general, because you can build Gunblade, you can build Gunblade, you can build Morello for your Echo, and you can build Spark for either Katarina or your Echo. And so, if that player still continues to try to play Shaco, despite not getting any augment openers for him, not getting the right item opener, then they are trolling if they don't just take the Katarina, unless Katarina is so bad. But, you know, in the current patch, Katarina is not that bad. If you're high rolling the comp and you get good items, she's pretty good. If you're high rolling, really good. But, you know, in general, Shaco is better. So a challenger level player, a player who actually plays at a challenger level, unless they're just trying to have fun and they just really like playing Shaco, in that situation, they would almost always be like, okay, I might look to play Katarina this game. This doesn't look like a Shaco game. You know, even though I'm 20 out of 20 Shaco, or I'm willing to be 19 out of 20 Shaco, because every now and then you're just not going to get stuff and you're going to really high roll for another comp. So most challenger players, they let the game come to them, even if you have a very stringent playstyle. So for example, the reason why I really like playing reroll Protector is because I found that a lot of augments could work for it. And sometimes I would get a mutant augment where I'd get an extra mutant. And so I'd be like, okay, I don't have to look for Malzahar this game. Or, you know, also it'd be, you know, maybe I can play 5 mutants later. Maybe I'll get another mutant emblem, or maybe I'll high roll a Mundo or something and I can look to play this, you know, or I get a Protector emblem. So I'd be like, okay, so I don't need to play Blitz at level 6. And I'm now going to play Malzahar at level 6. So I can have mutant, I can have that. Maybe I'll take Enforcer emblem. That helps me with my stage 3. You know what I mean? And so even though I have a loose game plan and a loose idea of like what I want to be doing, or sometimes I come into a game and I'm like, I'm going to carry Kog'Maw. I'm talking about real protectors again. I don't hit any Kog'Maws. I 3-star my whole comp. I don't hit any Kog'Maws. Am I going to try to still play Kog'Maw? No. I'm going to try to play Kaisa or Jinx, or just with my 3-star frontline. Or I might even play Caitlyn. Not in Challenger Elo, but that is something I used to do on my climb. I would play Caitlyn sometimes if I couldn't play Kog'Maw, even when I was playing Real Protector. But so the point is, Challenger players come into a game with a game plan, but they're ready to throw it out of the window, or they're ready to heavily modify their existing strategy, even one tricks, to better give them a chance to win each game. And this is especially important with augments. I think in the past, people didn't do this people could get away with not doing this as much, but with augments, man, it's really hard to not play a comp that you're high rolling. Yeah. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for the video. In synopsis, drop your ego. Challenger players, don't let their ego get in the way of them getting better. Most of the time, Challenger players play the meta. They learn all the meta comps. Even if you don't like playing meta, they still learn the meta. They double down on strategies. Whenever you find your own playstyle within the meta, or you find your strategy that's working for you, double down on it. But don't be afraid to adapt your strategy. Once you find something that works, and once it stops working, don't be afraid to adapt your strategy and have a method at which to do that. A lot of Challenger players have an alt account to practice on to change their strategy without having to worry about their LP. If you're not worried about your LP, you can do it on your main account. It doesn't matter. They stop watching or stop playing and just start watching other Challenger players. Very good move right there. Or outright just take a break from the game. I do this because my biggest problem with the game is I mentally can't take the game sometimes. And so that is the biggest thing that I need. A lot of times I don't have a problem adapting to metas. I just mentally can't handle the game. So I take a lot of breaks. And then the last thing is, a lot of Challenger players, they let the game come to them. You can go into a game with a loose game plan, but typically high level players don't brute force things to happen for them. They are open to modifying their strategy, even if they have like a one-trick mindset. They are open to modifying that strategy, especially when they start to high roll, like extreme high rolls of other builds, or they start to high roll a particular direction that their one-trick comp could go into. They go into that even if the most optimal version is this way, because for this game, it is better to play it the the off meta style, or the opposing style to what you normally play. All right, guys, that is it for the video. I appreciate all of you. If you guys like the video, please like the video. It actually helps a lot on YouTube. YouTube in 2022, they're actually putting a lot of emphasis on engagement as their key thing. So if you guys like the video, please like the video. If you want to give a comment on the video, I do read every comment and I respond to most. I don't respond to any negative comments. I just don't need that in my life, and I'm not interested in arguing with strangers on the internet. But if you want to leave something nice, I usually reply. Or if you just want to ask a question, I try to reply to as many as I can. But I do read all of them and try to reply to as many as I can. Other than that, I just if you guys want more of me, I do have a Twitter, twitter.com/TradingTFT, and twitch.tv/TradingTFT. I do plan on streaming quite a bit on PBE, and that is the best time to play with me, as long as my ISP allows me. I've just been having a lot of trouble with them lately, so hopefully they'll allow me to stream during that time and you guys can play with me. Other than that, that's it, guys. I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good night, and wherever you are, I just hope you're doing well. See you guys. Bye.